Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dynamic Thriving Podcast. I am your host, Marianne Pack, spiritual medium, author and publisher, and most of all, joy advocate. And this series is Unmuted Voices, and it's stories about people who have found themselves in a position where it was not safe to speak up or to live the fullest expression of who they are. So it's not just about voices, a physical thing. It is actually about how we express life and to the fullness of who we are. So this series is continuing through this whole year and will culminate into a book anthology. So I'm looking forward to that. And our guest today is my dear friend, April Goff Brown. Welcome, April.
Well, thank you, Marianne. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so glad you are here. We have been working together for a while now on our project, and I know you've probably seen posts of mine and April's about the sacred crystals. So it's the second book in the We Are Joy series, and we're excited about that. But first, we want to talk about unmuting our voices. So we're going to jump right in, April. And when did you realize it maybe wasn't safe for you to express your voice or express what you wanted or express the way you lived? How, maybe it was a little fearful that you can't do this or can't do that, or you have to be a certain way that kind of suppressed who you really wanted to be and show the world you were.
It's funny. I think, and listening to that question, which is a fabulous question, I think I always kept my voice muted because it was safer and easier. I'm the oldest of seven in a small house, and there was always so much that was going on. So it was hard to get your voice heard, literally. And my role was I was to take care of. I was like little mama. And so it was more about the physical expression of doing things that my mother expected of me, my father expected of me, that my siblings came to depend on me. And it was living in a way, doing what others expected was the safe way to be a good girl, be a good student, go to school, don't make waves. I probably was the worst oldest sister anybody could have had as a teenager because I never did anything wrong. Okay, literally, I never did anything wrong. And then I grew up. When I started to learn music when I was a teenager, I bought myself a guitar. It was the folk music craze, which I was into. And I found a song that was called If I Had Wings. And it kind of went, if I had wings, no one would ask me, should I fly? A bird sings and no one asks her why. And it goes on. And it became my anthem. Not that I used my voice much in really saying who I was, but it was a way of, I can be who I am once I figure out who that is. And so, bit by bit, I knew I didn't belong in my hometown that I grew up in, that I would be somewhere else. I eventually met somebody who I've been married to now for 40 plus years. And that was a real shocker because I grew up in this nice white community and my husband is Black. And so through a whole lot of things and I remember my dad asking me once something about what would happen if it didn't last, and because I had a child at that point and, what man would want me. And I remember looking and saying, what makes you think I'd want him? And that was really the first time of starting to speak that these are my values. I'm not going to change my values for anybody else, no matter who they are. And so that's like kind of that moment. There's a couple of moments that come to me, but that was one of them. And it even hit me by surprise to be able to speak to him, not at all rudely, but to be able to say that to him where he understood that, okay, she's her person. I was in my 20s at that point. And then it's just been growing since then, thankfully through the support and belief of this wonderful man I married to.
How beautiful. Yeah, what were some of those? I mean, I always call them indoctrinated beliefs. It's anything that we believe, whether it's a subtle message or just a blatant, this is what we believe kind of statement. What were some of those things that you learned that did suppress who you were, did suppress your expression? You were talking about, you had to be this perfect little girl,
Mm-hmm.
because you were the mama, the second
Right.
mama, basically, of
Right.
all your little brothers and sisters. And so, you had to be wanting to do other things besides mama them.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And again, when I got to the point where it was time to consider where I was going to go beyond high school,
Mm.
it was no mistake that I was choosing schools where I'd have to leave town. My way it was I had to escape. I had to physically escape where I was living. And then even when I would return home during summers or breaks, I never really returned fully, that I was already out the door. And when I finished college, I stayed in my hometown for maybe few months and then moved out, and far enough away where it's close. It's only a half-hour ride, but far enough away in a different kind of living arrangement that it was more that for me to be able to live who I am, I had to leave. I had to just physically leave and begin to figure out who I was, what I wanted, how I wanted to live, and live within the values that I was sharing. And so I lived still do a very multicultural life in an urban environment. Worked in nonprofit world where I was working on behalf of youth who didn't have voices either. And families who didn't have voices. So it was doing it professionally and becoming known for that, I think, was really helpful for me also personally.
Wow. That's beautiful that you found your way to those kinds of situations that allowed you to express more fully who you are.
Well,
Um,
it's always knowing that I can see myself in class in high school in my sophomore year, knowing that I was going to be helpful. I was going to help people. I didn't know how. And I did with kids and families for 30 some odd years, but finding that I'm still there, but in a whole different way. So I've always known that I would be helpful, just didn't know how that was going to be.
right.
And it's changed and it's evolved as I evolved.
Yes, exactly. So when you were like muting your voice, how did that affect your life? Because playing small always is a resistant kind of life.
Mm-hmm.
So it can affect your health or maybe your career choices. It could affect, uh, your finances or your time freedoms or even your spirituality. Like if that felt detrimental, how did it show up maybe in ways that were expressed in your life that way?
Well, going back to being that good girl,
Mhm.
okay, um, I was never to make anybody mad.
Oh,
No, I had to never make anybody angry. And so when you're in a relationship, and I know you've been married a long time as well, that's unrealistic. To the point, I remember we went to counseling a couple of times, and I remember her saying, "You're just too polite to one another." And it's like, okay, well, that's pretty interesting because I'm supposed to be nurturing. I'm supposed to be caring. I'm not supposed to make him mad and all of this. And so I found that I was really um, afraid to do that. And so I kept a lot of that stuff in. And what I'd find is I'd be muttering to myself later on, or I'd be, telling him off in my head, those kinds of things. So we know those behaviors. I mean, you've done it too, I'm sure. And because, like you, I grew up Catholic, and, so you follow all the rules and you do what the church says and the commandments and all of those things. and the tale of, we're supposed to be subservient, whatever that's supposed to mean. Okay. And so, I probably, without even realizing it, how much I had adopted that. And it's not that he ever expected it either. But clearly, he was, we, our life was shaped around his career, ours, and then when our son became a teenager, it was juggling all of that so that they still were first, not me. And the only place where I would say that I felt like I was shining was, in my job. Though I know that my priority was I wanted to be a good mom. I wanted to be a good wife. I wanted to be all of those things. And that was how I was being defined. It was, and it's really funny because as I'm thinking about this, it was when I discovered crystals, and you can see I've got aqua on. And so I'm drawn to this color and realizing that all these colors that I've been drawn to is really around this whole throat chakra bit, and how to open the throat and how to speak what you need to speak. How do you speak your truth? How do you do it tactfully and lovingly and all of those things, and not just blurt it out and then regret what you said later on. So it's so funny that I think about how I've been drawn to these colors and those crystals in particular, to the point where I knew that I was going to need to not just live what my values were, but I also had to make sure that I was speaking in a way that wasn't keeping me small any longer. And to be honest, my husband has been very happy because he never saw me as small. And now he keeps saying, like, but you don't see yourself that way anymore either. And this is so good.
Yes. That others recognize in you the changes that you've accomplished.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Even though, so many times people see us for something much bigger than what we envision ourselves as being.
Right.
And you talked about, radiating towards all the blues and the greens for the throat chakra. And, for me, my suppressing my voice, because again, I was indoctrinated to believe that my wants, needs, and desires were not important as the male figure in my life. So, from childhood, I always had throat problems, sore throats, and finally, a tonsillectomy at 15. And then at 22, I had a cold, hard nodule in my throat in my thyroid that they had to remove. And then at the end of my 20s, I developed Graves' disease.
Ooh.
All throat. Guess what I wasn't doing? I wasn't expressing my voice. It was so muted that I had held so much resistance and resentment and everything in my throat because I couldn't speak up. That my body was listening. Oh, we have problems with our throat. Oh, we have problems with our thyroid. So, I just developed that and to, start finding my voice years and years later.
Yeah.
It's just so different. Even my voice, the tone of my voice is different than it was when I was younger.
Oh, wow.
I used to have this little squeaky, higher voice. And it's like, wow, even the tone of my voice, the tonal quality is deeper and richer. And so I love that you radiated around those chakra and upper crystals.
Right. And what's interesting is, listening to you talk, is that I found my voice in singing, that I sang all through high school, college, and my young adult life. And people acknowledged that I had a beautiful voice. So I sang at friends' weddings and all kinds of things, which was wonderful. And so I think if I didn't have that, I may have ended up in the same place with you, but I was able to use it in a different way, even though where I wasn't was in really letting my desires, my needs, my wants be known. Because again, that fearful is, and awful to say that it was, well, he should know. They
Yes.
should know what I want, And it's like, yeah, but if I never told them, how are they going to ever know? Duh. So it was these realizations over and over that just kept coming, to the point that one day, in sitting down with my husband, and I would start to tell him something, but he hates when I'm upset. So he would then want to solve my problem right away. And I finally had to sit with him and said, I need you to listen. I don't want you to talk. I don't want you to react. I just want you to do this and let me, because his voice is really open. Let me say what I need to say. And now it's where he'll say, can I react or am I to listen? And it was just simple things like that that have allowed me to even more so be able to feel braver, that if I can say it to him, I can say it to anybody.
Yes. Yes.
Whatever it is, that if he's accepting of it and understands it, then I can say to anybody, because, that's the relationship. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's so beautiful, that you've worked through a lot of that energetic. It is the trauma. It's a trauma to our system, because that's not really who we are. We've taken on something else that's caused a little bit of trauma in our system. So in thinking about your aha moments, you kind of talked about some of those already. Is there anything else you want to add to that, because sometimes there's clear aha moments that are cut and dried. Okay, from this day forward, I know I'm free to use my voice. Other times it's like these little culminations of all these little gifts or winks from the universe that say, oh, you're on the right track. Go this direction.
And that's where I'm at. Everything, keeps telling me I'm on the right track. And so when I left my career for almost 5 years ago now, it was, now what? What am I going to do with myself? Right. And figured, I'm creative. I'll do something creative. And hence April B. Jewelry came to being. But the real story with that is that because I love color and was drawn to the natural stones, it was in learning about them and learning the messaging for them that actually it's been this continual awakening, that I joined a couple of networks that introduced me to a couple of more people that ultimately led me to you, as one of those people, and finding that we had shared our love of so many things and some history that seems very similar in our stories and everything, that there was this whole other world that I knew nothing about, that there's this place of where women support one another, and you're not competing, that you can develop friendships, and you can, that there's a way to help. The first time you and I spoke, and how, I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to talk with Marianne. She's just this amazing, powerful person, and she's going to spend time with little old me. Okay. And it was an amazing conversation with a 2-page email afterwards that was, this is support. Didn't know that existed. Yeah. And so to be able to be open to that, and that's been a series of like, oh, wow. And the awareness that, that continues to evolve, that, you look for you being open to the synchronicities that happen, and the coincidences, and just the opportunities that show up, and say, okay, I'm going to try that, or to really think about, no, that one's not for me. But it's really learning to be open to all of that. I think that's my aha, is really being open. And then you were saying, like, it's not just your voice, but your whole experience, letting the voice, the internal voice, that intuitive voice, really, talk to me and let me know, yeah, this is right for you, and testing that with my body. Yeah, this is right for you, as opposed to just plugging away because somebody said I'm supposed to do that. I don't live by any more supposed to's by anybody else any longer. It is, what is that internal voice telling me? And if it's the right one, I'm going to move forward. And so that's the big shift. It's not just using this here,
Right.
but really paying attention to that, what's inside, and wakening that up and letting her express how it needs to be expressed in all ways.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what's been amazing over the last 5 years. Really being conscious of that.
Right. So as you're transforming through this, I know it's made other things available to you that wasn't available to you when you were muted. So as you've unmuted your voice, again, I always say our mess is our message. What we went through and transformed through becomes our usually some kind of a support for others, because we've walked that path. We know it. It's personal.
Right.
So what has become, how are you developing, and what is it making more available to you by expressing it? What are you doing now with the work that you're doing?
So I'm more intentional about that helping part,
Right.
that for some reason, and it's a blessing, it's a gift that I have. I know things. I just can put patterns together. And so you might, share with me something and the patterns already come in. And so I'm able to open up different perspectives and ask questions. And so I've moved into doing that kind of help in a more professional way through the use of crystals and the crystal jewelry, but also opening it up to doing oracle readings. Being able to allow cards to, as I read them, to speak to me, let that intuition come up. And what are the questions that I would need to ask you, for example? What is it that I'm seeing this story and asking you, how does that resonate? What does it mean to you? Is that making any sense? And being able to help others then open up their voices or open up their own intuition and awareness through that. And so by combining the crystals and the cards together, I find that it's a really safe, really neutral way of being able to offer something to someone, because it's asking questions. And I think that's what I'm learning to do more of. Have you ever thought about here's another thing, and did you think about it might be this way? And just letting people see in a little bit more holistic and a larger perspective of things is what I really makes me feel good about what I do. And I've been doing that all along. I just now am conscientiously saying, this is what I'm doing. This is what I can do for you. This is how I can be helpful if you let me. Yeah.
Yes. And so how do people work with you? How will they get a hold of you?
So they can get easily through my jewelry website, aprilbjewelry.com, because there is on the website a way to contact me. And also on the website. So it's where you'll find all the jewelry, but it is also a place where you can reach out to me if you are interested in something custom being made for you, or to be able to set up an appointment for us to talk and to perhaps do a reading. And what I have found is that one of the things that I love doing is that as I've talked with somebody, and the cards help me in this a great deal, is that as I've done the reading and we've had those conversations, certain themes, certain messages come up. And so then I'm able to create that custom bracelet for somebody that is about, this is what you say you need to be thinking about. These are the intentions you have. This is the message that the universe has for you. So wear it on your wrist every day and remind yourself that you are worthwhile. Your voice shouldn't be muted, that you are indeed a loving person, that allow yourself to be confident in who you are. So whatever that message is that somebody comes out of the reading, that to me is what I'm able to do, is to take both of those things together so that it's giving someone a touchstone, a talisman for them to have with them all the time, to remember who they are and what they want to be working on.
Right. And it's like this. This is a bracelet that April made. So I have that one, wear it all the time.
I have 4 on at all times.
There you go.
Some of them are like my moonstone, because I need to always be reminded to trust my intuition, and that life is a series of change and cycles. So it allows me to just be patient and take a few deep breaths, because this too shall pass. Okay, kind of thing. But then also ones, and I did a solstice reading for me in December, that really let me know that I needed to become much more in tune with my higher power, develop a better sense of spirituality, really come to love myself unconditionally. And so those stones are in that bracelet, and are with me all the time. So that's the part that is fun and fascinating, and just feels really, really good to be able to do, to be able to help in that way. Something very tangible, nothing that's going to be forever long term, but just something that's tangible, that, oops, nope, I'm supposed to breathe through this, that this bad cycle is going to change. And, your intuition knows that. So, yeah, that's what's giving me, it's what's giving me the joy in my life right now, to be able to do all of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And then let's see. What would you offer? What kind of wrapping up something, that you would want to everybody to understand, or everybody to know?
In general,
that would help them learn that it's safe to unmute their voice,
right,
or maybe how to go about it, or seek help or coaching, or
right.
whatever it happens to be.
There are so many amazing resources out there.
Yes.
And so start by searching. I've read several books. I've joined a couple of Facebook groups. We're connected. And I think with your We Are Joy series and all the work that's going to be around that would be a perfect avenue for someone to connect to. And sometimes you might start by listening. I mean, I found that I listen more and heard the stories, and then how did that apply to me? And then find somebody. In some cases, I do recommend that you might want a coach. Okay. In others, it might be journaling, being able to, I pull a card every day and I journal, I reflect on it and journal. And I've read those back to see, how my journey has gone. And even what I found and I think this is what has been wonderful with social media and the groups that we are in, is that we get the ability to meet so many more people who are like us than we would have if we were just doing our regular old life in our little community, in our little sphere. And so to allow yourself to be open to the opportunities that the world is bringing us through these platforms. These platforms, I think, have been so beneficial. I know we hear all the downside, but so beneficial to help us find out who we are, find our voice, test it out with those safe places. And then the adage, the world is your oyster. Absolutely.
Yes.
So that's what I would want to leave, is to you the benefit of the technology that we have, and to see it as that and explore it and find those resources. What book has helped you, and to go ahead and read that. Some of the books that have been recommended haven't resonated with me at all, and others have been utterly amazing, that it's like, wow, this one really hit the point, and I devoured the book and it stays on my bookshelf for me to pick up. So it's a hit or miss, but it will come. But we've got to be open to the opportunities, and to know that none of us are alone in this, that all of us have been muted for a while, and it is such a beautiful space when you can finally speak to who you are.
Yes.
Yeah. Speak to who
Yes,
you are.
I would. Yes, definitely speak to who you are. And the thing is, we have to start learning who we are, because, or relearning maybe,
Right.
because I feel like every baby came in knowing who they were, and they just kind of got covered over by all the mess that, that we've lived through life. And then now it's like peeling off those layers
Yes.
to expose the bright, shining light that we are. So I'd love that you're helping folks with your oracle readings and the jewelry, the crystals. And I want to just say that April and I have written a book, and it is the Sacred Crystals. It's the book 2 of the Warrior Joy book series. So that is coming out on Monday, May the 16th. So we're very excited about. Do you want to say anything about our baby that's getting ready to be birthed into the world for more love and joy?
It is, when I got the proof and I read it from cover to cover, and when I put it down, it's like, wow, this is not your typical crystal book at all. And yes, we share lots of information about our favorite crystals, stories with them as well. But it takes it further, because it's crystals plus reflection, plus self-awareness. And and the exercises that we have in there, there's tons of them to try that can help really find that joy that is inside of you. And it was, so it's a different kind of book. I don't think there's anything like it. It's crystal education, it's self-awareness, it's reflection, and you can't help but come away feeling amazing afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I see it. So I'm so thrilled that you asked me to do this with you. It was a most amazing opportunity, and I'm glad that I said yes. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely. Yes, I was in April's Sacred Stone Stories class that she did. We had it for a few weeks. And, I love crystals since childhood. And so I found somebody who loved crystals as much or maybe more than I did. So I was so excited about that. And Spirit just kept going, excuse me, could you ask her to help you write a book? And so I finally presented it to April, and she took a while. We said, let's just throw it out here. Here's an idea. Here's maybe a rough outline, and let's see where it goes from here. And Spirit just led us along the way. And now we're ready to bring it into the world. So we're very excited about that. I get a little emotional with that because it's so tender to my heart. So,
well, and for you, the second one of this series that you envision, I mean, this is your baby, your dream.
Yeah.
And I'm just thrilled to be able to be part of having you realize and letting it come out into the world. So yeah. It's great to be able to help you do that. See, I'm helping again, but I love it. It was, and I learned an awful lot doing it as well, because the writing process and working with you just pushed me a little more and nudged me a little more. And so I grew in working on this with you. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for the world to see it.
Yes, absolutely. We're so excited for Monday to get here. So be watching for that. And I think with this is another way that I am unmuting my voice that I had never dreamed I would be doing. A podcast. Heaven forbid, should I talk to somebody and be live and interview somebody? I was always such an introvert. I was always the quiet one in any kind of a group or party or whatever, so much of the time. And, the teasing is, oh, stop talking, Marianne. You're taking over the conversation. Nobody can get a word in edgewise. And but when I started interviewing people, I just lit up.
Good.
The joy that I felt as I'm interviewing folks like you and transformational leaders and people who have had experiences that of unmuting their voice for this season, and now being able to express even wider because of the books, of publishing the books. So you can find out more information at wearejoybooks.com. It's there on the screen. And I just would love for you to get your own copy, so that, because we even have journaling places in the book for you to, as you're working through, every chapter has integrative questions and exercises for you to do, and we allow you to have space there. So get the book, because you want to hold that in your hand with your highlighter and your magic pen and go to town on enjoying and devouring this. So would you like to say anything else before we close out here?
No, I agree. And then as you're doing that, you're going to find your favorite crystal to have right there with you as you are going through this book and all the exercises. So, yeah. And let us know what you think once you get a copy.
Yes,
we'd love to know what you think and how it helped you, because that's really what we're here for.
Yes, absolutely. And also, you have a crystal quiz. Real quick, just mention that because I forgot to ask you about it.
Right. So the website is, I see it on the banner, aprilvjewelry.com. At the top of the page is a crystal quiz. Real simple, 10 questions, intuitive for you to be able to respond to. And at the end of that, it's going to suggest to you what your perfect crystal is for that day. For this particular time, and you can get directed back to the website to find some of your crystals in the form of jewelry or elsewhere. But aprilvjewelry.com, and look for the crystal quiz at the top of the page. And have fun with it. I love doing it.
Yes. I've already taken the quiz a couple different times, and because I want to know what it is. Because the thing is, I got two different crystals because I was energetically at two different places when I wanted to know.
Right.
So it helped me have something tangible, because she gives information about the stone, and then she has a link over to her jewelry where you might find something that resonates with you that says, oh yes, I need this, just like I have, to keep myself mindful of the energy and what my intention is to make my transformation. So I appreciate you for creating this quiz, because I will continue to use it.
Well, thank you.
You definitely suggest, through the whole book, we're telling you, go take the quiz today. Go take the quiz today, because you're going to need it throughout. It's just our energy changes all the time.
Right. Yeah. It was fun to put that together, and I love that people are using it, and I keep hearing, that resonated. Yep, that was a perfect crystal for me. So it's a good one. It's a good one, and easy to do.
Yes, it's very easy. Very simple quiz. Yeah. But it just has some powerful, potent information then once you receive it. So take this quiz, avail yourself of this. It's a free quiz, so you can take it as many times as you need to, like me, multiple times.
I may go back in and take it and see where I am today. Yeah,
absolutely. Good. So I so appreciate you, April. Thank you all for joining us and sharing our time with us. And look for our book. It is Sacred Crystals, Book 2, that will be available on Monday the 16th. So we're very happy that we had this opportunity, and I appreciate you all for joining us, and make it a glorious day. Remember that you are joy, looking for a way to express, and find somebody to help you. Find other people to be with you that can help you unmute your voice, because we're not in this alone. We're not lone rangers. We need the help and support of other people. So I appreciate you, April, for being my guest, and look forward to our book coming out.
Yay.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.